Okay, so this is the Shiur from the so-called Kuntress, למקדח, למחרוז, במשנה Torah, Rambam, although I realize it's not going to show on the screen. I like reviewing this every year before Selichos. It is a very good Shiur, not that it needs my approval. For the record, I'm recording this at 11:30 at night, pretty tired. So we'll see if there's any lack of clarity, then blame it on me rather than this year. Okay. So this is on page 26 in the Kuntress. Yeah. Okay. So Selichos. Okay, and then we're gonna do this the way we usually do when we do Kuntress Shiur. We're gonna read it, look up the sources inside, and then discuss it. But this is the Kuntress Shiur. This is not my Shiur. So I will do the best to answer on behalf of the Baal Kuntress, but yeah. Okay, so Ayin Hilchos Tshuva, Perek Gimel Halacha Daled, which we're going to do right now. So the context of this halacha, so this is Perek Gimel, which is about the how God judges the Zechuyos and Avonos. That's how it starts off. Then you get to the remez of the shofar, right, which I'm sure we are mostly familiar with, about how the shofar is telling you to wake up. Next paragraph is actually, I'm going to read this because I think he's going to bring it up anyway. So I know we've read this a lot, but maybe this is the first time we're reading it this year. Even though the sounding of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah is a scriptural decree, okay, which means here that I think the way he's using it is like a chok, meaning it's not something that rationality dictates. It's something that the pasuk dictates. Remez yeshbo, there is an allusion in it. Klomar, meaning to say. Uru, or it's as if it's saying Uru Yeshanim, Yeshanim, right? Not Yeshanim. Yeah, Yeshanim. No, Yeshanim, Mishinaskan. Yeah, my mnemonic. Yeah, you got yeah. the mnemonic is the Hebrew name Shena. Means beautiful, and you need your beauty sleep. Yeshenim, So Uru Yeshenim Mishinaspem V'hikitzu Nirdamim Mitar Damaspem. Wake up, you sleepers, from your sleep. Wake up, you deep sleepers, from your deep sleep. V'chipasu b'maasechem. Chapsu b'maasechem. I'm not sure. V'chizru b'tshuva. Investigate your actions and return in tshuva. V'zichru borachem, and remember your Creator. Elu hashochim es emes b'havlei hazman. These are the people who forget reality in the temporal vanities, or whatever you want to translate havlei hazman as. V'shogim kol shanasem hevel v'rik asher lo yo'il v'lo yatzil. And they spend their entire year immersed in nothingness and emptiness that does not benefit and does not save. Hibitu l'nafshosechem, look into your souls, v'hitivu darchechem u'ma'alalechem, and improve your ways and your actions. V'yazuv kol echem mikem darko hara u'machshavto asher lo tova. And each one of you abandon your evil way and your thought that's not good. Okay, so that's familiar. Okay, then he goes on. L'fikach tzarech kol adam shiur atmo kol hashana kula kilu chet yozachai v'chet yochai. This is probably one of the most common mistakes in terms of the way people think about it. I think people say that you should look at yourself between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur this way, which is true, but the Rambam says you need to view yourself the entire year as though you're half not innocent, but what's the opposite of chayav? Vindicated, exonerated, yeah, half exonerated and half liable. So too, you should view the whole world as half exonerated and half liable. If you sin one sin, then you incline yourself and the entire world to the side of liability, and you cause destruction for them. Asa mitzvah achas, but if you do one mitzvah, then you tilt yourself and the entire world to the side of zchus, and you cause salvation and salvation. Zehu shenemar b'tzadik yisod olam. This is what it means in Mishlei when it says the tzaddik is the foundation of the world. Meaning zeh shetzidek atmo. Meaning it does not mean tzaddik the way he's saying it. It's a person who righteousifies himself. Okay, the person who makes himself righteous. He inclines the entire world and saves it. Okay, now we get to our first source. Okay, umipnei inyan zeh, because of this idea. Which idea? The whole thing he said before. Okay, nahagu kol beis Yisrael. The entire house of Israel is accustomed laharbos b'tzedakah, to increase in tzedakah, uvmasim tovim, and good deeds, v'lasot b'mitzvos, and to be involved in mitzvos, mirosh Hashanah v'ad Yom Kippurim, yeser mikol Yom Hashanah. to be involved in them between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur more so than the rest of the year. V'nahagu kulam lakum b'layla b'aseres yamim elu ulihispalel b'bate knesios b'divrei tachanunim v'divrei kibbushin ad sheyor hayom. And they are accustomed to all get up at night during these 10 days and to be mispalel, to daven in the shuls in words of supplication and words of subjugation, or humbling, I guess, until daybreak. Okay, so this is what we call slichos. And just to note, the ikar minhag slichos is between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim. Ashkenazim extended to the week before Rosh Hashanah, which is in an hour and 14 minutes, and then Sfardim do it all of Elul, right? But the ikar minhag is during the Shas Tshuva. Okay, good. Okay, and again, we're following the Kuntress' lead, because if we analyze this all on our own, then we're just going to spiral into Rambam Bekius. Yeah. Okay. So that's what the Rambam says. This is what the Kuntress says. Ayin Hilchos Tshuva Perek Gimel Halacha Dalish because of Rambam Haminhag Lehispal Slichos. Right. So he writes the minhag of davening Slichos. Hatam leminhag zeh hu sheshoklin avonos adam v'zchliyosa b'chol shana v'shana. Yeah.
Sorry, just speak on one.
Sure.
Thing. In the Rambam's halacha, the one that we just read.
Yeah.
He doesn't specifically talk about slicha per se.
He doesn't call it slichos, right? He doesn't call it slichos. But the what we do is the implementation of what he's saying. Like he is talking about the minhag that we call slichos.
Right, but it's not the same like text.
No, yeah, the text, yeah, correct. He's not talking about the text. Yeah, we are going to talk about the text later on. Actually, past that. Yeah, okay. I actually, the Kuntress is going to actually quote the first part of this parak. We're not going to read through the whole thing. I'm just going to paraphrase it until we get to the part. So everyone has zechuyos and avonos. Same thing with the country, and same thing with the world. Someone whose zechuyos are more than their avonos is a tzaddik. Someone whose avonos are more is a Rasha, and half and half is a Benoni, or middle, half and half is a Benoni, right? So he talks about the weighing, and then he says, just like a person's avonos and zechuyos are weighed at the time of his death, just so too each and every year, so too the zechuyos and avonos of each and every inhabitant of the world, meaning all mankind, not just the Jews, are weighed on the Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah. Someone who's found to be a tzaddik is sealed for life. Someone who's found to be a rasha is sealed for death. And the Benoni hangs in the balance until Yom Kippurim. If he did teshuva, he's sealed for life. And if not, he's sealed for death. Okay, so back to the Kuntress. He says, "Hatam leminhag who shesholkin avonos adam zechuyos b'chol shana v'shana Rosh Hashanah v'tolin lo lahabenoni ad Yom Kippurim." Okay, it's funny. He doesn't really present it the way the Rambam does. He says the reason for the minhag is that the avonos of each person are weighed with the zechuyos on each and every year at Rosh Hashanah, and he hangs in the balance for the Benoni until Yom Kippurim. Fikach tzarach shira es atmo v'chein es kol ha'olam k'chetzio zakai v'chetzio chayav. So therefore, you need to see yourself as they're half liable, half exonerated. Chatachet echad hare hichriyat l'kav chova v'im asa mitzvah achas hare hichriyat l'kav zechus. We just read that. Okay. We can ask about this. We must ask about this reason. Shari ika tam yoser yesodi. There is a more fundamental reason for this minhag. V'hu shemidarche hateshuva lios hashav tsoik tami lifnei Hashem b'v'chi u'v'sachanunim. Kidi isa b'hilchos tshuva perek beis halacha daled. So let's look at that. So in beis daled, he talks about the darche HaTeshuva. He says, "Midarche HaTeshuva lios hashav tzoik tami lifnei Hashem b'v'chi v'sachanunim." One of the ways of tshuva is that the penitent should cry out constantly before Hashem with crying and supplication. Okay, and he goes on and gives the other darche tshuva. So back to the Kuntress, he says, "Kolomar chiyuv HaTeshuva atzmo mechayev tefilas haslichos umadua nakat hatam shel hachras hadin." Okay, so tshuva itself is mechayev you, to use a brisker term, is mechayev you in slichos. So why does the Rambam take the reason of the deciding of the din? Okay, and now this is more fundamental in the sense that the entirety of Hilchos Tshuva, however you formulate the mitzvah, whether it's mitzvahs tshuva or mitzvahs vidui, there's an idea in tshuva itself that should warrant that you supplicate before God in an excessive way, right? So why is Hachras Din the reason? Yeah.
According to him, like we should be saying Selichos all the time.
Right. That is also true. Right. So, but in other words, I guess you could say, and this is my point, not his. He does say in I think later on in this parak. No. What does he say? I thought it was in this parak. Hold on a second. Miskabelas. Yeah. Alpha Pisha Teshuva Vahataka Yafel Olam. This is in 2:6. Even though Teshuva and crying out are always good, but Sersi Yamish Ben Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim who he Yafa Bioser. It's better between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim. Miyad he miskabelas, and it is accepted immediately. Shnemar Div Rosh Hashanah Mimatzo Karu Huzabioso Karo. So it's true what you're saying, Isaiah, that a certain person should always be involved in tshuva and always be involved in this. But there's an idea that tshuva is more acceptable during these days, and since this is a derech of tshuva, then then it would be appropriate. That would be the appropriate reason for doing slichos during these 10 days. Yeah. Okay, so that's question 1, right? Why is the Rambam attribute this to Hachras Din and not tshuva? Okay, next question. Okay, Rambam kasav shemispalelin slichos. Okay, the Rambam writes that we are mispalel slichos. Now again, Oren's right. He does not use the word slichos. He says that we are noheg to be mispalelin b'bate knesios, etc. During these 10 days, but he is talking about slichos. Okay, so the Kuntress is saying the Rambam writes that we're mispalel slichos. The MShe. And it's true, Selichos near Tefilah. It seems like Selichos are Tefilah. Hamivne shel haslichos hu ashrei chati kadesh slichos tachanun v'kadesh shalim ukamo Tefilas mincha. Okay, the structure of Selichos is ashrei chati kadesh slichos, then tachanun and kadesh shalim. So it is in the place of Tefilah, right? So it's the same structure as mincha. Then in parentheses he says, "V'lav davka tfilas mincha lu'umas tfilas shachris v'arvis ela sheseder mincha habi tfila l'chud umash ein kein sidrei shachris v'arvis sheyesh behem gam kein kriya shema u'birchasa." So he's saying, he says, I don't mean to say it's only similar to mincha. It's just that mincha is a standalone, is only tefillah, whereas shachris and mariv have kriya shema and brachos. Okay, fine. Ela sheyesh l'tmua, but you should be astonished. She'etzem hatfila hu shevach bakasha v'hodaya. Okay, the essence of tefillah, the essential, the substance of tefillah is shevach, bakasha, and hodah, is praise, request, and thanks. B'tzura uveseder zeh, in this form, in this order. K'disa b'hilchos tefillah perak aleph halacha beis. Right, that's what the Rambam says the essential components of tefillah are. In, let's just read it here, in tefillah aleph beis, where he says, Alachiv mitzvah zo kachu. Shehe adam mispalo mischan b'chol yom. Person should be mispalo and supplicate every day. Umagid shvacho shel kadosh baruch hu. You should say the praises of God. V'achkach shel tzarach of shutzarach lehem b'v'kashav v'tchina. Then you should ask for the things he needs with asking and supplication. V'achkach nosin shevach v'hodai l'Hashem ala tova sheish bi'alo. Then you should give thanks and praise and thanks to God for the good that he bestowed him. Right. So that's the structure of tefillah midaraisa. Okay. So what's wrong? So he says. Kuntress says, "Aval b'slichos eino kain." Slichos is not like that. She'in chelik shel hodaya klal. There's no thanks at all in slichos. V'hashevach v'bakasha muravim zobazo, and the shevach and the bakasha are mixed up with each other, right? So it's not all the components, and they're not in the right order. Okay, so the question is, how can he speak of being mispalel when the thing we're doing is not really tefillah? Okay, and we're certainly, and this also answers your question, or not answers it, but addresses it. We are not mispalel, strictly speaking, ad shiur hayom. Like we don't say Shemona Esrei, right? So we're definitely not mispalel literally. Okay, so he has to be talking about whatever it is that we say. V'od shehachomer shel tefillah hu brachos. Furthermore, the material of tefillah that tefillah is made of is brachos. Vachomer shel slichos upsukim. Okay, slichos is made up of psukim. V'chein od, likewise, shel tefillah ikazmanim meduyakim beyom uzman. Okay, so tefillah has exact times in the day. Uzman slichos eno meduyak klal. Right, the time of slichos is not exact at all. Shehugdar ka'es lakum b'layla ad she'er hayom. He just defines: just get up at night and daven until daylight. Okay. V'im slichos havian tefilah. So now here's his punchline. If slichos is tefilah, madua ika shinuyim elu b'mivdeh b'chomer uvizman bein slichos l'shar tefilos. Then why are these differences in structure, material, and time between slichos and other tefilah? Okay, so that's question 2. Okay, question 1 is why does he say the reason for slichos is the hachras adin and not tshuva? The question 2 is if he uses the verb mispalel, why doesn't it correspond to anything he says about tefillah? Yeah.
I mean, do we need to posit that mitpalel is, strictly speaking, is mitpalel as we call tefilah, mitpalel versus just the actual what the word means? Like he's mitpalel, he's reflecting.
Interesting. Okay. Right.
Versus he is what we colloquially say like davens.
Right. So you could say that, but it is interesting that I guess his premise is that the Rambam is going to be speaking halachically, presumably, but also it is weird that there are other verbs that you could use, that the Rambam could use, of mischanin or omer,
well, as
stuff.
far as the reflective in what mitpalel is,
right?
If you say you're mitchain, you're omer, you're going to be missing out on that aspect of
right.
You could get the word term for examine your actions.
Right.
You could use
mafashbesh b'mazal. Right. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I guess the question would be, does the
also run with what he's saying?
Yeah, no, but the question also is, does the Rambam ever use tefillah mispalel to mean anything other than tefillah? Right. So like presume I'm not familiar with any case when he does that. So I think that's why like he's using his Rambam is using his like technical term. I think that's why the Kuntress is assuming that. Yeah.
And for the Shava Bakasha Psukim and the Bracha, the Rambam didn't his slichot didn't have the same words that we do.
His slichos did not have the same words, but yeah, I want to mention this now in case if we have time, we can examine this in depth. But this was told to me. I've never seen this inside, but I was told this, and I what do you call it? Trust the source. So I have an article on the methodology of how to learn slichos, and so I say this there also, and I walk us through it. But in the art scroll, you'll have this thing almost before every slicha that says. It'll call it like prefatory verses to Slicha 3 or prefatory verses to Slicha 4. Okay. The original Slichos were all psukim. Okay. So what these little paragraphs here were the original Slichos. And then what happened is later on, Paitanim poets wrote like poetry based on those clusters of psukim. So, and this minhag went back to the time of Gaonim. So what the Rambam was doing was saying that he started off the same way, most likely, and which is the what is it? How does it start off again? The L'chad Hashem Hatzedakah V'lan Boshes Panim, all those psukim, and then going through many other sets of psukim, and then the Yuga Momidos as well. Yeah, so that is from my understanding, that was the minhag before during the Rambam's time. Okay, all right. Third question. Ikar Slichos Havi Shalosh Esrei Midos. The essence of Slichos, the main part of Slichos, is the 13 Midos. I am the Gemara Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis. Let's look at that. So this is the Gemara that's the source of Slichos. So the pasuk is V'yavor Hashem al panav, which means Hashem passed before his face. Plain shot panav refers to Moshe, right? So, but the I think the drasha is Amar Rabbi Yochanan Ilamala Mikra Kasuk Yevshar LaOmro. Were it not for the fact that the pasuk said it, it would be impossible to say. Malamed Shinis Atif HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kishliach Tzibor V'herlo LaMoshe Seder Tefilah. So this teaches us that God wrapped himself in a talis like a shliach tzibor, and showed Moshe the Seder Tefilah, Amar Lo, and he said to him, Kol Zman Yisrael Chotim Ya'asu Lefanai Kaseder Hazev Ani Mocha Lahem. Anytime the Jews are sinning, do this Seder before me, and I will forgive them. Okay, and Rashi says, it's a pretty good deal. Rashi says, is there no Rashi here? I guess there's no Rashi. I guess I imagine that there was a Rashi here. Okay. Oh, I know why, because he's going to quote Rashi later on. Okay, so that's the Gemara. Oh he quotes this later on. He says, where did I just go with Gemara here? Bris Crusa. Yeah. Then it says, okay, fine. So it says, Hashem Anihu Kodem Sheyachta Ha'adam, Vanihu La'achar Sheyachta Ha'adam. I'll call you a second, Michael. I am Hashem before man sins, and I'm Hashem after man sins. V'yaset Shuva and does Shuva. Kel Racham Chanan, etc. Okay. Amar Rav Yehuda Bris Crusa the Yugam Amidos She'enon Chosros Rekam. A covenant is sealed with Yugam Amidos that they don't go back empty-handed. So what does that mean? So Shneimar Hine Anochi Kores Bris, because Hashem prefaces it by saying, I'm going to seal a covenant. So Rashi says Bris Crusa L'Shaloshos Rei Midos. Halalu. A covenant is sealed with these 13 midos. Sh'im Yazkirum Yisrael B'Tefilas Ta'anisam. If Israel mentions them in the tefillah of their tainus, Einon Chosros Rekam. They don't go back empty-handed. And then Hina Nochi Kores Bris Al Hamor Lamala. Okay, yeah, Michael?
I could be reading too much into these, but I think it's interesting that when Rambam mentions the source for Selichot, he makes it, at least the way I kind of heard it, was how it's like, Israel recognized what the situation is, so they developed the idea of doing Selichot, whereas the Gemara makes it sound like, it could just be drush, but the Gemara makes it sound like Hashem told us to do this.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You're correct. So it sounds like, so Hashem definitely instituted the, what do you call it? The Seder and the practice, but it sounds like Klal Yisrael were nohig to do it during that Zman. Like Hashem didn't say do it during this time. And in fact, the way that Rashi says it, at least, is during the tefillah of their tainus, which seems to be that the main time that Jews would be when they're doing a tainus, as opposed to all the selichos. Yeah, good observation though. Yeah, Isaiah.
Maybe like an obvious question, but like, were they just like magical power, the 13 midos? Like,
check this out. V'yesh lahavin eich ze poel. We need to understand how this works. Okay, he says we need to understand how this works. That when Klal Yisrael says this, then they're forgiven, because it's impossible that this statement is like magic. Okay, yeah. There you go. Yeah. Right. Okay, so that's the main question here. Also, is how exactly does this work? Right? You just say it and you're forgiven. Okay, yeah. Literally, I should say it's not magic, like a type of incantation, but he means magic. Yeah. Okay, I think those are the only questions, unless he has another one. Okay. No, he goes on. Me'oso ha'inyan ayin shemos perik lamed gimel psukim yud zayin through yud tes uvarashi al pasuk yud tes sham b'dibur maskil v'yomer ani avir v'gomer. So let's look at that. So this is the perik of Yugumiyos. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, Yud Zayin. V'yomer Hashem Moshe gam es hadavar hazeh asher dibarta eseh ki matas hachein be'inai v'eidach al b'shem. Also, so Hashem said to Moshe, also this matter that you have spoken, I will do, for you have found favor in my eyes. And wait. Ki matzasa chen be'inai. Yeah, you found favor in my eyes, and I have known you by name. Okay, right, yeah. I would go back and read the whole parak, but we're going to be here all night if we do that. So, V'yomar, and he said, Harini na es kavodecha. So then Moshe says in response, show me, please, your glory. V'yomar, and Hashem says, Ani avir kol tuvi al panacha v'karasi b'shem Hashem lefanacha. I will cause all of my goodness to pass before your face, and I will call out in the name of Hashem before you, and I will have grace on the one who I have grace on, and I'll have mercy on the one who I have mercy on. Okay, so what do we see from there? Oh, Rashi. Dibur hamaschil v'yomer. Okay, ani avir higia sha'a shetire bichvodi. There will arrive a time when you will see my glory. Ma she'ershe oschaliros, only the amount that I permit you to see. Because I need to teach you the Seder Tefilah. When it becomes necessary for you to ask for Rachmim on Yisrael, remind me, literally, right, or mention for me, recall for me the Zechus of the Avos. Kisavur atash im tama Zechus Avos ein od tikva. Because saying you'll think. If you think. Yeah, I just want to double check and see how they say this. Just now when you felt the need to pray on on Israel's behalf. You besought me to remember the merits of the patriarchs, and you thought that if the merits of the patriarchs are exhausted, there's no more hope. Okay, and then therefore I will cause all my goodness to pass before you. Right. Okay, so the Kuntress says here, Shemoshe Rabbeinu savar shatfila lechaparas b'nei Yisrael tzricha lios me'inyan zchus avos. So Moshe thought that the tefillah for the kapara of b'nei Yisrael needed to be based on the zchus avos. Uve'emsa inyan zeh, and in the middle of this, Bekius me'Hashem liros pnei Ashkina. He asked Hashem to see for Moshe to see the face of the Shekhinah kaviyachol, as it were. But Hashem ana oso sheyuchal leda as Hashem derech tefilah shlosh esrei midos v'shis palu b'nei Yisrael tefilah zo af im kala zchus avos. And Hashem answered him saying that he is able to know Hashem by way of the tefilah of shlosh esrei midos, and that b'nei Yisrael should be mispalo this tefilah even if the zchus avos is depleted. Okay. Yeah, Isaiah?
I have a question on the Rashi.
Yeah.
Like, why was it important to wait until the time that Bnei Yisrael as a whole would need this, like, slicha, that's when the Moshe Rabbeinu should bring the thing before Hashem? Like, and, like, it seems like, why is it even just so focused about the whole, in general? Like, it seems like this is an important thing, like, that an individual might be able to get.
Right.
Kind of.
So I think in order to answer that, you really need to learn through the entire Perek Yud Gimel, Lama Gimel, about how Moshe is responding to the Chet HaEgel. You know, well, Yud Beis also, Lama Beis also, yeah, right. Yeah, so I think that's beyond the scope of yeah, it's a good question, but I don't know. Okay, V'yesh lahavin. So we need to understand Me'irua zeh from this incident. Mahu inyan shalosh esrei midos. What is the idea of the shalosh esrei midos? Shehin ha'aniya lebakashas Moshe Rabbeinu shel har'eni na'as kavodecha. So what are the yugam midos as a response to Moshe's request of show me your glory? Lihio seder kapar lebnei Israel, to be a seder of kapar for bnei Israel. Okay, so in other words, there's the question of how did the yugam midos work in the Gemara of like you get instant mechila, and then there's understanding this as a inyan of the kapara and Yedias Hashem. Yeah. Do we need to turn on the air conditioner again? Anyone else feeling muggy? Yeah. Okay. Could someone do that? Oh, that's what he's doing. Okay. I don't know. I didn't hear. No.
I heard him say yes, but he goes that way also, but the thing is that way.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I also wasn't sure. Okay. I also feel like it'll help me be more awake.
We have Selichos in the books too.
I assume so. Yeah. Thank you.
Is somebody going to be taking them down?
Guess so. We have to change out the stuff before right?
What's change out the stuff for profit?
Okay.
Yeah, you need like a good 15 minutes to do
that. Yeah. I timed this year a little bit early. I don't think we're going to use the whole time. So, okay. Okay. So I think, is this another question or is this an answer?
Did you stop the recording?
I did not stop the recording. Yeah. It's still going. Yeah. Okay. Since slichos are a type of tefilah, okay. Now we just need to understand all of tefilah in order to understand slichos. Okay. All right. So, ika shnei minei tefilah. There are two types of tefilah. Ha'echad hu tsalusa. One is, this is the Aramaic word for tefilah. Okay. So he's calling tsalusa. Ratzlomer avoda shebalev. Okay, that's a service of the heart. Ukidisa b'koseres lehos tefilah ubirkas kohanim. Okay, so let's look at the koseres of tefilah and birkas kohanim, which is lavod es Hashem b'tefilah b'chol yom, to serve God in tefilah every day. Okay, so that's avoda shebalev. Yeah, ukidisa because okay. Vasheni, and the second one, who's zaka lifnei Hashem be'es sara gedola, is crying out to Hashem at a time of a great sorrow. Ukidisa b'kuzeres lechos tainios. So let's look at that one. That is in Zmanim, and tainios and koseres is mitzvah se achas v'lichis anos is to fast, v'lizok, and to cry out lifnei Hashem b'chol es sara gedola shetavo al tzibor, and to cry out to Hashem when any great sorrow befalls the tzibor. Okay, so those are two types of tefilah. All right. in parentheses is al-zakazo ayin mash birashnu b'inyan hamitzvah litkoa b'chatotros ala korbanos u'b'shas hatzar. Okay, so there's another Kuntress here on that. Okay, zakazo, this outcry, the Tefilah of Za'aka, havya me'in teshuva, is related to, thematically related to tshuva. Kidisa b'hilchos Tainos perek aleph halacha beis, as we see in Tainos aleph beis, which says, V'davar zeh midarchei hatshuvahu shebizman shetabot tzara v'yizaku lav yariu, when this is one of the ways of tshuva, that when the tzara comes and they cry out and sound the trumpets, yedu hakol, then everyone will know shebiglal ma'asem haraim hur lahem, that it was because of their evil actions that this happened to them. Kakasuv avonosechem hitu ele. And this will cause them to remove the tzara. Okay, so in other words, the tefillah is something that signals to us that this is because of our actions, and that will cause us to engage in tshuva and remove the tzara. Okay. Bazeh ika shnei mechayvim l'tshuva. So with this, there are two mechayvim for teshuva. Hachet atzmo, okay, the chet itself, v'hatzara shehi totza'a miderach ra'a shel tzibor. And the second mechayev of tshuva is the tzara, which is an outcome of the evil way of the tzibor. Okay, so in other words, if you just sinned, you would have to do tshuva just from the fact that you sinned. But then separately, if you want to remove the tzara, you need to engage in tshuva. That is also mechayev you to do tshuva. It is a din in tzibor, right? Correct. Yeah, there's an idea of a yachid as well, which the Rambam mentions at the end of the first parak, but this is definitely talking about the tzibor. Tefilah haza'aka hi me'inyan hateshuva hashniya. So the tefilah of za'aka is related to the second type of tshuva. Okay, of the tzara. Okay, now here comes ready for the svara. Okay, v'yesh lomar. We can now say sheslichos hein ke'ein tefilas za'aka be'es tzara. Selichos are a form of tefilas zaka be'es tzara. Okay, ularaya, and as a proof, ayin barashi al gemara Rosh Hashanah daf yud zayin beis b'diur maslo bris krusa, which we read, shekasav sheseder shloshes reimidos shayach letefilas hatainos. That's why the Rashi mentions that the seder of Yugam Midos is relevant to the tefilah of a fast day. Tahainu zaka be'es tzara, which is calling out at the time of a tzara. Hatzara hagedola. Oh, now this is the beautiful part. Hatzara hagedola ba'aseres yimei tshuva she'allah hazoakin hi hashikul b'mei hadin bein hashchasa l'teshua v'hatzala. Okay, what is the tzara that we are being mispalo for during the aseres yimei tshuva? It is the weighing of the days of judgment between destruction and salvation. Okay, that's the tzara. Okay. So in other words, this is not like in Hilchos Tainos where there's a tzara of famine or locust or plague externally. This is this is also external, but it is a metaphysical tzara of we're all hanging in the balance in judgment, and that warrants us to engage in this type of zakah. Yeah.
Isn't that always true?
Well, it's not always true that we are hanging in the balance in judgment. That is only between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's true that we should always think about ourselves as being Chetzi Zaka and Chetzi Chayev, but we're not always being judged. Yeah, I mean that's a machlokes in the Gemara, but we paskin that we're not always judged. Lufika chatam l'slichos hu hahachra. That's why the Rambam gives as a reason for the slichos the judgment. Okay, the hachras din, the judgment of that we're in. Velostam hatchina k'tshuva, and not just the supplication. As part of tshuva, kilchos tshuva perak beis halakha daled. So that's answering our first question. Tchina zo hi midin tshuva mipnei chet. So those are these two types of tshuva. The supplication that we do, that's one of the darchei tshuva, that stems from the tshuva that comes from doing a chet. But this slichos is coming from the tshuva that comes from an eis tzara. Okay? Yeah.
The eis tzara due to chet?
The eis tzara is no. The eis tzara is all the time. It's just due to the condition of man having zechus and avonos. But I mean, the fact that man has bechira, you mean?
I'm not 100% sure, but you said we didn't tshuva with a chet,
yeah,
and it made tzara. But the tzara specifically between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is due to the fact that we sin.
Meaning, if someone didn't have faith, right, then they wouldn't be in Tzara.
Pass that down.
And the Kippur, right?
Right.
That's not
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's kind of a weak question because the or I'm not being clear enough about the chait. In other words, you do a chait, and that warrants doing tshuva. And being involved in the tshuva process warrants you engaging in supplication before God, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is the entire world is being judged, and you might be sealed for life and sealed for death. Now, it's true that you're only in a potential to be sealed for death because you've done sins, but the tzara is the fact that you're being judged, and that's like, and this is not the result of an individual sin. And even Moshe Rabbeinu is going to be judged between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim, you know. So like it's a separate phenomenon. The only connection is man is a creature that has bechira and can sin, and if it weren't for that, then you wouldn't have sins or judgment. But yeah, okay. Because Chizkiyahu and Isaac came back, and I'm going to restate the whole svara, right? Because this is the main idea. So I'm just going to read it again. I'll just read it in English. So we can now say that actually, let's review the questions, right? So the question one was, why does the Rambam say that the reason for Selichos is the fact that we're being judged between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim, as opposed to tshuva is another reason for Selichos. Second question was, he uses the verb, we are mispala Selichos, but if you look at the form of Selichos, it's not Tefilah because it doesn't have shevach bakasha hoda'ah. It's in a different order. The time is not exact. And we say psukim instead of brachos. Third question is, the Gemara says all we need to do is say Yugam Umidos and God will instantly forgive us. The question is, how does that work? Fourth question is, Moshe Rabbeinu asked God to show him his glory, and as a response, God taught him Yugam Umidos. So what's that idea? So the main idea is, he says Selichos is a type of tefillah at a time of he says there's two types of tefillah, which is avodah shebelev, which we do every day, and then za'aka be'es tzara, crying out at a time of tzara. Selichos is a tefillah of a za'aka be'es tzara. Okay, and the proof is that Rashi says you should do the Yugam Umidos during a tainus. And what is the es tzara that we're in? It's the judgment between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim. We're all in the state of danger, of being judged and being destroyed, and that prompts us to engage in crying out to God at a time of tzara, and to do the tshuva that comes with that. Okay, so that's the main idea of what selichos are. Okay, etzem selichos hu shloshes rei midos. The essence of selichos is the 13 midos. The inyanan who midas harachmim, and their character is the midas harachmim. Okay, these are Yugam midas harachmim. Valzed dibra Torah kalashim ne Adam. Regarding this, the Torah speaks in human language. She'ein lashem rikshus klal. God doesn't have any emotions. Which we're not going to look up because I assume we're on the same page here about God not having emotions. Ella shaharachamim him. So what is rachamim then, if it's not an emotion? So here's where he's going to explain what it means that God has rachamim. El shaharachamim him sheme'achar sheha'adam chata. After man has sinned, v'lo hisik tachlis briaso, and he has not achieved the purpose of his creation, tahainu yedias Hashem, which is knowledge of God, ukihad be'arnu be'inyan mitzvahs anochi Hashem elokecha, as we explained in the opening shiur of the Kuntress, ika shtei efshariyos ushtein mistabros. There are now two possibilities, and both of them make sense. Okay, so in other words, like this: man doesn't achieve his purpose. Now, there are two things you can do with man, okay? Ha'achas hi la'abed es ha'adam. One is to destroy man. Shelo hisik tachlis briaso, because he didn't achieve the purpose of his creation. Vashnia, and the second thing you could do, he latakno, is to fix him. Kadesh yuchal lahasik tachlis mikanu labas, so that he can achieve his purpose from now and going forward, right? So in other words, both of these are rational things you can do. So, some kli is not working. You could either get rid of it and get a new one, or you can fix it. Okay, miskiras ha'adam, from man's perspective, ha'efsharus hashniya niris kirachmim. From man's perspective, the second possibility seems like mercy, right? Is rehabilitating man is the merciful of the two options. So that's why we call it midas harachmim. Okay, Ella shekdei lehanos mimidas harachmim tzarich shehei ha'adam muchshar umusugal lios mesukan benesinas harachmim. In order to benefit from the midas harachmim, man needs to be prepared and Sugulified, Musugal. I don't know. Musugal is how do you translate Musugal here? Let's just see if this is one of the modern Hebrew terms that he's using. Oops. Google Translate. Sometimes he throws in a modern Hebrew term. Oop, I was working on some Italian there.
Is it Rambam? No, is it modern Hebrew?
This is the Kuntress.
Oh, the Kuntress.
Yeah, Misugal. Able. Okay, there you go. Or capable, suited. Okay, I think capable. So he needs to be prepared and capable. So in order to benefit from the Midas HaRachamim, man needs to be prepared and capable of being fixed through the giving of the Rachamim. She'im lokain ein l'Rachamim to'elas. Because if not so, then the Rachamim won't have a purpose. Okay, so this is an important idea here, right? Is that, and this is my whole, again, I'll say it again. I forgot how I say it. The most important shiur to listen to, I think, that I've ever given is the shiur in the Yugam Midas HaRachamim. Which is a good thing to listen to now, especially going into Selichos and Yom Kippurim. But that shiur I elaborate a lot on this, which is that God doesn't just grant Rachamim. God does just grant Rachamim, but you're not going to get it. Okay, in order to get God's Rachamim, you need to prepare yourself and align yourself with the Midas HaRachamim in order to be able to get it, to get the benefit from it. Because if not, then it's just not going to have any effect. Okay, and that's true for all Midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not just Rachamim, but it's especially important if you want Rachamim, because there's this feeling that we have when we say you give Midas Rachamim. There's a feeling that we're trying to like get God to have mercy on us, and that's borders on avodah zarah, so that we can somehow change God and make Him have mercy on us. But the whole, the Rambam said it best on these psukim here. Hashem's response to Moshe is Chanosi es asher achon v'richamti es asher arachim. In fact, I have a Rambam here. Rambam says that means, he says, Ki Hashem Yisrael lo tidbak hashgachaso hapratis bazeh ha'ish haramuz hidabek bo mitzad shu zeh ha'ish haramuz. God does not have hashgacha on you qua you, like as who on a particular person as that particular person. God will have hashgacha on any person who is on a certain level. Who built roy la. Therefore, it's not proper to ask that God has hashgacha on someone who's not fit for it. You need to make yourself worthy of the hashgacha, and then you'll get the hashgacha. Okay, so that's the whole process of the Yugam Midas HaRachamim. Yeah.
Once you're fit for hashgacha.
Yeah.
Is it then makes sense to ask for hashgacha, or is it something that if you're already fit for it?
Good question. I think he's going to answer that, and if he doesn't, then I'll answer it. I think it's in this. I think he'll do this. Bezeh she'adam mevin. Yeah. This is it. Bezeh she'adam mevin ich po'elas midas harachamim. Through the fact that man understands how the midas harachamim operates, umehavana zo, and from this understanding, hu mavakesh me'es Hashem shiyaches imo b'midah zo, then he asks Hashem to relate to him through this midah. Hahavana vehabakasha atzman osin es ha'adam kekli haroy lekabel midas harachamim lehanos mimena. Then the understanding and the asking itself transforms man into a vessel that is worthy of receiving the midas harachamim and benefiting from it.
So it's not like he's asking from the place of like, oh, now change for me. It's more asking from. It's like a practice. The asking is more for, how do I say it? It's to go through the motions of asking, but to make yourself realize. Like,
the asking, exactly. The proper asking itself makes you worthy of it, and that's the pshat of v'haya terem yikra v'ani ene ohonim v'ani yishma, that God answers you before you ask, which means that the transformation of the self via the asking makes you worthy of it. And if you want an elaboration on this, listen to the 9-part shiur. This one sentence is the 1-sentence summary of the 9-part shiur that I gave last year on how Tefilah is answered, that we delved into this with the Sefer Ikarim. Like that's this whole thing is the act of asking transforms you into someone who's worthy of getting the hashgacha, and it's automatic. It's beautiful how concise this sentence is. Yeah, Isaac.
I thought you had a sentence too. article I read recently about what if tshuva was easy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking that I think asking Hashem for rachamim, with his understanding, entails recognizing that you need to work on yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that is like the fundamental move of tshuva.
Right. So let me I'm going to talk out an example of this because I think it'll help. Okay, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So could you? I hear what he's saying. But I feel like could you maybe go a little further and say that's true, but you're also recognizing that you still don't even have the ability to work on yourself without Hashem sort of
right.
And so otherwise go read the self-help book, like you're asking for the ability even probably to make true for that matter.
Right.
And so even that you have to be roy for. And then in asking is I need your help. That's what asking
right.
Means. Yeah,
correct. Yeah. Right. It's you have to recognize your utter dependence on God to provide you with the thing they're asking for. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So an example of this would be, let's just pick one of the Yugumumios that is easy to understand, is Erech Apayim. Okay, Erech Apayim means God is slow to anger, which means that he does not punish immediately, but he delays and gives you time for tshuva. Okay, so in asking God to be slow to anger to you and understanding what that means, that you need this time, you're acknowledging a whole bunch of things about the fact that there are going to be consequences to your actions, and that God does expect you to develop, and that you don't have a say in when you get the punishment, and the very act of asking for that prompts you to work on yourself and to be deserving of having Erech Apayim. Like in other words, like you can't, someone who doesn't have that understanding and asks for Erech Apayim is not going to get it, because it wouldn't serve any purpose. But someone who is understanding that God gives us time to develop, and we need time as human beings, because we've got a lot of struggles and stuff like that, and then asks for that itself makes us worthy of God relating to us in that way. Yeah. Okay. I mean, obviously we have to go through all the Yugamuminos in order to understand this, but, and that again, that's why, okay, the upshot of this, and I'm not just trying to sell my own shiur, like I'm sure Rebbe's giving a lot of shiur on Yugamuminos also, but in my shiur, I go through and I explain at least one idea for each of the Yugamuminos, and like just saying Yugamuminos does nothing. Like that was the takeaway from the shiur. If you just saying them gives you absolutely nothing except the glimmer of recognition that there is a concept of rachamim, but like you're not going to get the individual things that you're asking for without understanding it. And to the extent that you understand it, then you're going to be worthy of it. Yeah. Okay.
So Kuntress is putting this in context of the second min Tefilah
of Zaka based on right.
Your 9-part shiur, you tied it to Tefilah in general.
In my 9-part, yeah, correct. Yeah, correct.
So you're saying it's both?
Well, yeah, because in my 9-part shiur, I was saying, what does it mean for God to answer our tefillos in general, anyway, and he's saying that mechanism applies in the Yugamuminos, which is in the Zaka based Torah. In other words, this is a particular of how all tefillos and relating to God works. I think, yeah.
What's the particular and what's the universal?
The universal is that God is not changing, and that you're changing yourself through understanding Darchei Hashem and beseeching God, and then you become worthy to receive the response. And then the particular is this seder of the Yugamuminos Harachamim.
But you said in that shiur, I think was applied to Tefilah in general and not just the Tzara.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's I think so. That was the way that it seemed that the Sefer Khan was saying it.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was saying that the essence is God is not responding to your verbalization; He is responding to the transformation of the self, and you engaging in saying the words. We're chayav to say the words in order to get ourselves to like think and understand and stuff. Okay. Besoch Tefilah so lechaparas b'nei Israel L'Bnei Israel. So in the midst of his tefillah for the atonement of Bnei Israel, Moshe Rabbeinu bikesh leida Hashem. Moshe asked to know God. Because through this knowledge, for the leader of the community, there will be a kapara for Bnei Israel to make them capable or worthy of the midas harachmim. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu needed Yedias Hashem in order to know how to lead Bnei Israel in a way where they're going to become worthy of the midas harachmim. So that v'lachein hura Hashem Moshe Rabbeinu as inyan midas harachmim ke'aniya letefilasa, and that's why God taught him the idea of the midas harachmim as a response to his tefillah. Hora azo hi gilui shchina b'yedias Hashem. This instruction was the revelation of the Shekhinah in knowledge of God, and that's why the shots needs to be wrapped. Okay, now I don't think he explains that, but I've heard the idea before that the idea of atifa is like a reminder that there is a veil between you and your knowledge of God. I don't know, you heard that idea before? That it's reminding you that man's knowledge is inherently like limited when it comes to Yedias Hashem. I don't know if that's what he's saying, but like he's not explaining it. It says sometimes that you need the Shlichus to be have his head wrapped. Ubezeh sheslichos, is that the end of the page? Oh yeah, it's just the next column. Ubezeh sheslichos, I'm just scrolling up. Libnei Israel la'achar chet ha'egel. Did I skip something?
No, you went to the first page.
Oh, I went to the first page. Okay, I'm just gonna. Since the slichos are teaching or an instruction, benuyim hin mipsukim, they are built from psukim. Okay, Torah entities of Torah that lead you to Yedias Hashem. Okay, so that's why the Tefilah of Selichos is not made out of brachos, because the seder of the Yugam Umidos is essentially it's a teaching, so it's comprised of psukim. Okay. V'shapir move on shem makor l'slichos shehu ika echa perik beis pasuk yotes kidisa bebir hagra leorach chaim simin tavkuf pei al b'dibur maskal ashmores myri gam b'talmud Torah kidisa b'hilchos talmud Torah perik gimel halacha gimel. Okay, so let's look at this here. So the source of slichos is a pasuk in echa kumi roni balayla v'rosh ashmuros. Hashem. Let's see if that's it. Hold on. Where am I looking? Talmud Torah Gimel. What do you say? Gimel. Yeah. So the pasuk in Echa says, "Kumi roni balala, get up and sing in the night." L'rosh Ashmur, or cry out in the night. I think in Echa's pshat. L'rosh Ashmuros, at the head of the watches, meaning at the time, at like the this early wee hours of the night. Shifchi kamayim libech nochach pnei ado Hashem. Pour out your heart in the presence of Hashem. Si'i elav kapayich, lift your palms up to Him. Al nefesh olalayich ha'atufim bara barosh kol chutzos. Over the souls of the younglings that are fainting because of famine at the head of every street. Okay, so that's in the concept of Echa, talking about like the tzara of Echa. But the Rambam brings this. So the Gra says that that's the source of Selichos, of get up and cry out in the night. But the Rambam brings this down also as the halacha of you should learn at night. He says. Even though it's a mitzvah to learn during the day and the night, a person only learns the majority of his chachma at night. Therefore, someone who wants to merit the crown of Torah, he should be careful with all of his nights. And he shouldn't waste even one of them in sleep or eating and drinking and conversation and other stuff like that. But only in Talmud Torah and Divrei Chachma. Amru Chachamim in Gorna Shel Torah Ela B'Laila. The Chachamim say the like storehouses of Chachma are only at night. Shnemar, as it says, Kumi Roni Balayla, get up and cry out at night. Anyone who learns Torah at night, a thread of chesed will extend to him during the day. Shnemar Yomam Yitzav Hashem Chasto V'Layla Shiro Imi Tefilah Chayai. Any house of Torah that is any house where words of Torah are not heard at night, a fire should consume it. By the way, side point, this was the motivation for giving this shiur tonight, because I was like, okay, if I have to go to Selichos anyway, what am I going to be doing between 11:30 and 12:15? You know, yeah, exactly, right. So like, you know, and so I was like, okay, might as well give shiur. Yeah, right. So his point though is he's saying that it works out that so the Selichos is made of psukim, because Selichos Yugam Umios are essentially learning Yedias Hashem, and it's the pasuk that talks about the virtue of learning at night also is the source of doing Selichos at night, of doing that kind of learning about Hashem at night as well. You know, okay. Ubezeh muvanim hahavdelim b'tzura bein Selichos l'shar tefilos. Now we can understand the differences in structure or in form between Selichos and the other tefilos. Yesh l'shtein oso hamivneh shel ashrei chati kadosh v'chulei v'zeh shestein amida lifnei Hashem. Okay, so the format of ashrei chati kadosh, Selichos, tachanunim, and then kadosh shalem is because it's amida lifnei Hashem. Okay, it's really interesting. He brings the idea of amida lifnei Hashem here. Ella sheseder shevach bakasha vodaya havidin betfilas slusa, but the order of praise, request, and thanks, that is a din in the tefilah of avodah belev. Masha ein kain betfilas zaka, which is not true for the tefilah of zaka. She'etzem ba hu lahavin eich miyachasim lemidas harachim shel kadosh baruch hu, because tefilas zaka, the essence of that is to understand how to relate to the midas harachim. Yeah.
This is a bigger question that we probably can't answer right now. But like, I feel like when we were learning about Tefilah, that it seemed like the part of the reason of having like the Shvachos in the beginning of Tefilah is in order that you're like able to say the Bekachos afterwards. So like, how are we able to jump right into the Bekachos?
Good question. Good question. Let's see. He does address that briefly, I think, but I don't know if he's going to address the whole thing. Let's see. We'll finish the paragraph, and if we have time, we can think about it. V'chein hachomer shel tefilas slusa hu brachos. So too the material, the material of the tefilah of avodah belev is brachos. Mash ein kein hachomer shel slichos shu psukim, which is not true of the substance, the matter, the material of slichos, which is psukim k'dei lilmod ulhavin, because slichos, the purpose is to learn and to understand. V'od shezmani tefilas slusa nikba'in mechalke hayom. The times of the tefilah of avodah belev are established based on the components of the day. B'chol eis erev avoker v'tzarayim, evening, morning, and afternoon. B'inyan zmane tefilah b'chol yom, as we explained in that other shiur. Ulam l'tefilah zaka. Here's a cool idea. For tefilah zaka, be'eis tzara, crying out at a time of tzara, zomis palim b'layla al pi echa perek beis pasuk yotes kumi roni b'layla v'gomer. Okay, so that's based on that pasuk in Eicha. What does it mean? Mashmaos pasuk hi she'i efshar lishon mipnei hatzara v'hadaga. The implication of the pasuk is that you're unable to sleep because of the catastrophe and the worry. V'im kain hazman l'tfilah zo nikba lo mizmane hayom ela mehagavra she'eno yachol lishon. Okay, so the zman of Selichos is not based on the time of the day. It's established based on the gavra who cannot sleep because of the tzara. V'kam b'layla lishpoch libo lifnei Hashem, and gets up at night to pour out his heart before Hashem. So that is a thought when you're getting up for Selichos in the morning, and you hate it, you know, which is that if there were if you were going through a catastrophe, whether like national or personal or whatever, and you would be getting up, not able to sleep, and then being mispala to Hashem out of desperation. That's how we should feel when we wake up for Selichos. You know, like that there is an emergency going on, which is that we're being judged, and that's why this man is established being like in the middle of the night. You know, yeah. Okay, so I guess he did not answer the question about why it's mixed. I thought he did. Yeah, okay, so let's finish it, and then if we can, we'll answer. And now we can understand with all this that slichos are not a type of incantation. Okay? Ella shahavanas hahashgacha naasim. What?
Might have alluded to in previous paragraph in the one line.
Yeah.
We read on Masha Inkim, but
Yeah.
Since the whole thing is to analyze,
right.
Understand may not be necessary.
Okay.
Before getting into it.
Right. So in other words, it's going to be dictated by the Seder of Psukim is going to be dictated by the Seder of Halimud, right? So if Bakasha is warranted first, or if Shava, right? Yeah. Okay. So he says now we can understand it's not a type of incantation. Rather, through understanding of the hashgacha, then the mispalim become fit for the midas harachmim. Okay, so that's how it works. V'zehu kavanas bris krusa shelo yachzru reikan. That is the meaning of the fact of the Gemara's statement that there's a covenant sealed with the Yugam Midos that they don't return empty-handed. Te'ika chukim b'hashgacha pratis k'mo sheyesh chuke hatava b'hashgacha klalos. There are laws of hashgacha pratis just like there are laws of nature in hashgacha klalos. Dehainu, namely, she'im b'nei Yisrael yihu ru'im lehanos mimidas harachamim. Namely, that if Bnei Israel becomes worthy to benefit from the midas harachamim, az tipal midah zo lahem, then the midah will work for them. In other words, it's a guarantee. Just like in gravity will work the way it's supposed to work no matter what. So too, if Klal Yisrael understands the midas harachamim, then God will relate to them with that midas harachamim. It's a law of hashgacha. Aleph through Gimel, which is the whole thing. It's actually built into halacha that if Klal Yisrael responds to the tzara with the chatzotros and the tshuva and the tefilah, God will remove the tzara, and that's a guarantee. Yeah. Okay. Is this last paragraph? Yeah. V'yesh lahosif, and we can add Shalafi Haramab or Chaim Siman Tafkuf Pei Aleph Sif Aleph Shashatz L'Slichos Yihi Ashatz L'Chol Tefilos Hayom. Okay, so I know we don't hold like this in yeshiva. that the Rama holds that the Shliach Tzibur for Slichos should be the Shliach Tzibur for all the tefilos of the day. Okay. Ukepirish ha-Magen Avram ha-Maschil b'mitzvah omrin lo gemor. Okay, the source for that is the Magen Avram's statement, or the Magen Avram says the source for that is that a person who starts a mitzvah should finish it. Imkein kol ha-tfilos b'aseres yimei tshuva milvad shehin tfilos tlusa nitosaf behen kiyum shel tfilos zaka be'es tzara. So all the tfilos during the aseres yimei tshuva, aside from the fact the fact that they are tefillah of avodah shebelev, there is an added kiyum of tefillah zaka be'sara. Ratzlamer es hachras adin, meaning time of the judgment day. V'lachein shayach lomer sham hamaskeh b'mitzvah omrin lo gemor. That's why it's relevant to say that someone who starts it off should finish it. In other words, like this, he's saying on the surface, what's the shaychus of leading slichos and the other tefillos of the day? Those are completely different things. So what must you say? You must say that there is some common thread in all of them. And what he's suggesting is that the common thread in all of them is this added dimension of zaka be'es tzara that pervades all of your tefillos. So in other words, when you're davening in your regular tefillah, practically what this means is when you're davening in your regular tefillos in aseres yimei tshuva, let's say, this is an easy example, when you're saying the bracha of tshuva in the Shemona Esrei, you should be aware that this is not just avodah shebelev, this is also zaka be'es tzara, and when you're asking for your needs, in Barech Aleinu, you should realize that this is a zaka be'es tzara in terms of you're being judged for the year or whatever, yeah.
You mentioned before that the halacha is that the Mikar Din, we don't, Selichos is really just for Aseres yimei tshuva.
Right.
And Ashkenazim as far as it.
Right.
Earlier.
Yeah.
There's the Achras Din, we say the Yom Adin is Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
So according to all of this, it would make a lot of sense. The Ikar Adin was to do Selichos before.
Well, it's interesting. Before the tzara comes. Right. Yeah. It's an interesting thing. Yeah. Structurally speaking, though, I understand it makes sense that the zaka be'es tzara has to have the tzara has to be like present, right? In other words, like you don't engage in zaka and the trua on the chatzotros before the famine hits, right? You do it when the famine is.
Well, you might have already been judged l'rav,
right? Meaning. Right. Hold on a second, I just lost the train of thought. So say again.
I'm just asking if Yom Adin is Rosh Hashanah, maybe this might be a side question. But if Yom Adin is Rosh Hashanah,
yeah.
So if
and the tzara that we're talking about that you want the slichos for is so that prior to a din, I would assume you want to be engaged in this so that your din is not sealed, what you don't want. So, but the ikar din is not to do slichos.
Right.
It would seem like.
Right. So
this definition of slichos, I would say.
What I'm trying to say is that because he's saying that slichos is zaka be'es tzara, then I don't think there's a concept of structurally at least of zaka be'es tzara, like mitzvah of zaka be'es tzara, unless there actually is a tzara. I don't think we do it beforehand, is what I'm saying.
Oh, so I guess I'm saying that the tzara really is before.
Right.
I guess that's my question.
Yeah. So I think it sounds like he's saying that the tzara is the hanging in the balance.
Yeah, but that doesn't.
That's between Russia and
That's between Rosh and Yom Kippur.
Well, what would it be then? What should it be before?
It's not sealed until Yom Kippur.
Right. It's not sealed until Yom Kippur, and you're also not in the state.
Russia, it's sealed, no?
Yeah, but we are not supposed to assume that we're Russia. Right.
No, but maybe.
Right, but I'm thinking of an analogy.
Everything that we do is under the assumption that we're Beinah.
Right.
This whole seder,
right?
It's all assumption that we're Beinah.
Right. Yeah. In other words, I still.
Doesn't make sense to me because maybe you weren't.
But you have to assume that you are, right? I mean, that not you have to, but that's the that's the instruction from Chazal that we should always view ourselves as Beinonim.
Okay, maybe a side question.
Okay.
I don't want to do it all later.
The ode is the last point. Yeah, the ode, derech agav, incidentally, masha nogim lispalo shloshes midos b'chol yom tov, who gam kein me'inyan hafras adin, k'isa b'gemara Rosh Hashanah daf tes zayin amud aleph, v'mosh b'rashim be'inyan mikadish hazmanim. So there's the minhag that we say the Gimel Midos HaRachamim on Yom Tov, right, when they open the Aron. And he's saying that there's a Yom Hadin on each of the regalim as well, right? That you're judged for water on Sukkot and judged for produce on, the Ilan is Shavuos, Peros Ilan is Shavuos, and then Tavua is Pesach. I know I said that in the wrong order, but yeah, right. So so he's saying that there's an idea of saying the Yom Midos HaRachamim for those Yom Hadin also. Yeah. Okay, so the takeaway, I think, practically for saying Selichos here is, for me at least, is what I always think about is that when you're saying Selichos, you're saying a zaka be'es tzara, and the es tzara is the din, is the hafras din, and the way to get rachamim is not by asking, but by learning and understanding and asking, and that this should prompt us to learn the Yigam Midos HaRachamim in order to be able to be worthy of it. Okay, and then what you can do as well. I need to put this on the Substack. It is on the Substack. Let me just look at it here. I have this. I just need to clean it up. But the methodology of, I just want to go quick methodology of Selichos thing. Selichos. Right. Yeah, right. That's what I want to show you here. How to learn Selichos. So this is what I was saying earlier tonight, that you can read the article because I walk you through it. But so this is going to be, I guess, Monday's Selichos. So these are the prefatory psukim. Okay. The derech, this is my derech in learning Selichos, is you understand the psukim and try to understand what the main idea is of the psukim, ideally by looking at them in context. And if you understand those correctly, then when you read the slicha, then you'll get all of you'll know what to think about, and you'll get all the themes there. But each of these is a limud in the hashgacha as well, because these are the psukim that we're supposed to learn in order to merit the hashgacha. So yeah. So I do a walkthrough of this here, but so what I used to do when I was in yeshiva is I would prepare for slichos the next day by picking one of the slichos that we're going to do the next day, and then just spending a little bit of time looking at the prefatory psukim, and if I can, also reading through the slicha, so that when I say it the next day, then it will it won't be the first time. And if you do that every year, then you end up learning a lot of slichos. You just pick one. Yeah. Okay. So that's the Kuntress on slichos. Yes. Questions.
Just a practical question about you doing those.
Yeah.
So or now.
Yeah.
The practically speaking, when it's being said so quickly.
Yeah.
Is it just a matter of like, since you've like worked on it beforehand, so then when you're when you're in shul, then you're like kind of getting the idea, or do you have any other?
The way, I mean that's like I guess that's what we're gonna have to do type of advice. The way I like things though is that there is a unity in the Midos Harachamim, and hearing it said all at once is focusing your mind on the unity. Like if you just it's kind of like if you're ever, I don't know why this comes to mind. In shuls where they sing a lot during Birkas Kohanim, by the time like there's so much of a pause that you lose sight of the fact that it's one sentence. So like hearing it all as one sentence has a different effect on the mind, and you need to do it in like a normal talking speed. That's like another approach to hearing it fast. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for coming.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.